This is a fake Lego figure. Now this is a custom Lego figure printed on real Lego pieces. But is it actually good? Well, it's one of 4 I'm going to be reviewing today. This video is sponsored by minifigs.me. A few days ago, I got a package, and inside were these 4 boxes. Now I know what's inside of these, but I don't know which is in each box, so let's open them up. As you can see, the presentation and packaging for these figures is actually really nice. But either way, the first box has Wolverine. Now this is not just any Wolverine because Lego has those. This is the Wolverine suit and design from the Deadpool and Wolverine movie. And he even comes with his claws, which is a cool bonus. The next box has Daredevil, specifically in his suit from the Daredevil show. And I didn't actually know this, but there's only ever been one Daredevil figure. And it's a comic book version that came in the Daily Bugle set. Anyway, next we have Deadpool, and this is the figure I wanted the most. He actually comes with his swords and a pistol, which I really didn't think he came with, but that's cool either way. Also, something that I never owned is his sheath, or whatever you call the thing on his back that holds his swords. Now, I think at this point, everyone loves Deadpool, but he has been one of my favorite Marvel characters for a very long time. So of course, I've always wanted his Lego figure, but if you don't know, the official Lego figure is $65 with a crack in it, and $100 brand new. So yeah, I don't think I'm getting that very soon, which is exactly why I wanted this figure. We do still have one other box though, and this is possibly the most important. It has The Witcher in it. And if you've ever wondered why my YouTube profile is some old guy, well, it's not. It's actually supposed to be The Witcher. It's a 3D version I made in Mecha Breaks and Blender a while ago. But that's not why this figure is the most important. It's the most important because I paid full price for this figure, which means that I have no reason to like this figure, just as you wouldn't if you bought one of these. The figure boxes and pamphlet are a 10 out of 10. They really do look like Lego style, which is great. Now onto the figures, we are actually going to start with the Deadpool figure this time. Obviously the quality of the figure is super high because it is real Lego. That also means that the proportions and compatibility are there just as much as with any other Lego figure, and that is the same for all of the accessories on this figure. The red pieces used for the base are perfect. It's bright but not too bright. And finally, the most important part, the printing. Now minifigs.me uses a printing style called UV printing, which consists of placing a layer of paint over top of the base piece and then shining a UV light on it to cure the paint. This type of printing is also able to use digital files, for instance a picture. Now Lego uses a style called pad printing, where you take ink and press it against the piece. Lego style also has to have a chemically imprinted design, which is placed onto a piece of metal and then used to transfer the ink to the figure. From what I've read, UV printing is much more cost effective for smaller businesses, much faster, as well as apparently being better for the environment. Now there is kind of a downside when UV printing, and that is that UV printed designs often have a grainy look, which can make them stand out from whatever they're printed on. And this is something that you will notice with some of the minifigs.me figures. They do look different than a normal Lego figure, and that is the reason. When you look at these figures, you may see it as they have a raised layer of paint on top, and that is true, but if you look at an official Lego figure, you will see that it has the same thing. It's just less noticeable due to the printing method. One thing that I wondered is if this layer of paint was easy to peel up and scratch off. So far, I haven't noticed that, but it's also said that UV printing has the same durability as pad printing. Now, looking at the actual design, it is very well done and doesn't fall into a trap that I see a lot of other custom creators do, and that is adding too much detail. So much so that it doesn't even look like it's Lego style. The figure has a perfect mix of detail and style, making it look like a CMF that Lego could actually make. As you can see, there is printing on almost every side of the figure, which is a difference from Lego as they don't do this, but I think that in this case, it's actually better because this isn't just another Lego figure. This is a collector's figure. In my opinion, a collector style figure should have something extra and unique that will make it stand out amongst your other figures. And I think this is the perfect way to do that, not adding a crazy amount of detail. Although it would be disappointing if they never did it, I am happy to see that they do include accessories with some of these figures, and when they can, they use official Lego pieces. Overall, this figure doesn't have any issues for me. I love the design, quality, and collector style of it. I'm giving this one a 10 out of 10. As I said, this video is sponsored by minifigs.me, and they are a standalone company that is not affiliated with Lego. Instead, they buy real Lego and print their own designs onto that. Official Lego, just not official Lego designs, which gives them the ability to make figures for just about anything you can think of, especially things that Lego would never touch, like the TV shows Game of Thrones or The Boys, and horror characters like Michael Myers and Ghostface. They have figures for just about everything. Some of my favorites besides the loads of Marvel figures are the characters from Avatar: The Last Airbender, which has just about every character from Aang to Uncle Iroh. They even have characters like the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers to Pokemon with Ash and a ton of Pokemon like Pikachu. If you want to check out their figures, you can use my link in the description or scan this QR code and that will automatically apply my 10% discount code. Next up is actually going to be The Witcher, because this figure is the most unique from the others, as he doesn't include a real Lego accessory, but one that actually seems to be resin printed, which if you didn't know, a resin printer is a kind of more complicated 3D printer. Now usually with anything 3D printed, you would see small lines known as layer lines, especially with something this small, and that is literally the standard. But I can't actually see any just by looking at it right now. Although when I put it under a light, I was able to see some surprisingly small ones. Luckily, the sword is also perfectly sized to fit in the figure's hand and is also not brittle, so it doesn't feel like it's gonna break. Now, one downside to the sword is that it's not painted, which is most likely due to the paint coming off on the figure's hands if it was. So with that in mind, I'm fine with no paint, and it's gray, so it works. Another really unique thing that I noticed is that the hairpiece is painted white. So that could be seen as a downside, but if the piece doesn't exist, I don't care if they make it. As for the printing, I took a look at The Witcher from the show, and this is very accurate. The legs do look a little under detailed, but that is the way that they are in the show. I'm actually very surprised by the small dots on his suit. I wouldn't think that that would be possible with the UV printing, but apparently it is. Another thing I was very surprised by was the face, which doesn't really look UV printed, possibly because everything is so small that it's hard to notice. Either way though, there are more small dots, being the stubble on his face, and it is cool to know that they can print something so small. Now, one problem that I do have with this figure is actually the secondary face, which is pretty much the same as the front face, so it's actually kind of hard to tell them apart. I would have preferred if the secondary face had him with black eyes. I think that would have been a little cooler. Overall though, I'm really just happy to have a figure of The Witcher, so I'm gonna give this another 10 out of 10. Now onto Wolverine. This figure is very similar to Deadpool. His claws and hair are both real Lego and neither are painted a different color, so let's talk about the design. And of course it's great because it is the one from the movie, although one thing that I did notice is that the design has a sword hole and bullet holes. They probably added this because it looked a little bland before, but I would love to see a version without the damage. Even with it though, the printing is great. Moving up to the head, it actually looks really good as well. It even has a secondary face on the back, which I have to say the design of this is super cool, because when I see Lego use this hairpiece, it will often have a secondary face with it, but it usually peeks out from under the hair on the back, which I think is pretty annoying. But with this secondary face, you can't even see it. As for the face design, it is very similar to the front, and it's pretty much what Lego does. One angry face, one casual face. This figure is going to get a 10 out of 10. It's just too good. Here we are at the final figure, Daredevil. I have always kind of thought that the real Lego Daredevil was a little uninteresting. I know it's his comic book design, which I will admit is cool, but for him to be the only Daredevil figure we've ever gotten, I feel like they could have had a better version. So when I saw that minifigs.me had one, it kind of called my name. Now this figure didn't come with any accessories, but I would assume that that is because the top of the cowl is a more expensive piece, and that means that if they were to add accessories, it would be too expensive. But speaking of the top of the cowl, like The Witcher, it is actually painted to be this darker red. I think that is because the black one is the cheapest, so they have to use it so they figure his price can stay down. Now onto the design, it is very well done again, even having the laces on his shoes, but it does have the least color variation. Obviously because that is how the suit is in the show, but with that in mind, there isn't really anything different about this figure. It just looks great. I will say again, there are a lot of small dots for stubble and stitching on the suit, which I am very impressed by. I do think that is all I really have to say about this figure though, so I will give this one a 9 out of 10 because it doesn't have any accessories, which we know why, but the others did, so it has to go a little lower. But I think that's it for the review. I'm definitely going to get more figures eventually. I'm thinking Homelander is next, but I also hope that they can add some more figures. For instance, I'd love to see a Marvel Nova figure, although it does seem that they mainly do characters who have been in movies or TV shows and not really comics. But with that in mind, I do think it would be cool to see some DC superheroes like Red Hood or Peacemaker. I do want to mention though, if you wanted to design your own figure, minifigs.me actually lets you do that. To do that, you can search for image on their site, and then you can choose like torso and then an image that you want to print onto it. I think I'll eventually do this for Nova since he's one of the ones that I really want, but I don't know how many other people really want him. Either way though, definitely check them out. And if you do decide to buy a figure, remember to use my link to get that discount. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for watching. And of course, thank you to minifigs.me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Taking shots at the enemy, I'm gonna make it to the top, leave a legacy. If I got something to say, you better let me speak. Turn it up a new degree, bitch, you ain't seen anything. I pop off.